Samuel chapter 4. Second Samuel chapter 4. Anybody remember what we talked about last week? Eileen's famous answer. Judah, what were we talking about last week? You saved them last week when I asked.
More about David.
Huh?
More about David.
More about David and King Saul. Remember? And the anointed one. And in chapter 13 of 1 Samuel, how the kingdom was ripped away from his heritage because of his disobedience, and then his kingdom was ripped away from him. In chapter 15, because of his disobedience to not destroy the Amalekites. Now we're in 2 Samuel, chapter 4. Let me get there real quick. 2 Samuel, chapter 4. All right. Apologize. Hang on one second. All right. 2 Samuel chapter 4, verse 1. Now when Mephibosheth, Saul's son, heard that Abner had died in Hebron, he lost courage, and all Israel was disturbed. Saul's son had two men who were commanders of bands. The name of the one was Baanah, the name of the other was Rechab, the sons of Rimmon, the Beerothite, of the sons of Benjamin. For Beeroth is also considered part of Benjamin. Okay, verse 3. And the Beerothites fled to Gittim and have been allies there until this day. Verse 4. Now Jonathan, Saul's son, had a son crippled in his feet. He was 5 years old when the report of Saul and Jonathan came from Jezreel, and his nurse took him up and fled. And it happened that in her hurry to flee, he fell and became lame, and his name was Mephibosheth. What's the name of Jonathan's son? All right,
Mirabel.
Okay, keep your finger right there. Turn over to 1 Chronicles. I can read it for you. 1 Chronicles chapter 8, verse 34 says, the son of Jonathan was Meribel, and Meribel became the father of Micah. And it goes on into the lineage of Micah.
What?
1 Chronicles 8:34 talks about Jonathan had a son named Baal, which means, anybody in the Bible tell you what it means? That is the same guy as Mephibosheth. Same guy, different name. His name of birth was Meribel, or however you pronounce that. I'm not really sure, but and that name means the opponent of Baal. And when he was dropped, when he found out that his father had died, the nurse picked him up and took off running. Because any time the king dies and his son dies, the whole family's in trouble. When it comes to lineage of a king, the family's in trouble when the head is dead. When someone else tries to take over or whatever, the heritage of it is in trouble. If your name is of that lineage, you're in trouble. Until authority gets reestablished, you're in trouble. So the nursemaid takes off running, drops him, and for the rest of his life, he's lame in his feet, and then from that day forward, he was called Mephibosheth, which means what? Anybody's Bible tell you what that means? It means shame destroyer, or destroyer of the idol, exterminator of shame. Mephibosheth. Who is Mephibosheth? Jonathan's son. Who's Jonathan? The son of Saul, the king of Israel. They both died on the same day on the field of battle. Around 5 years old, according to what we just read, Mephibosheth is 5 years old. The nurse takes off running. His father's dead. His grandfather's dead. It's a bad day. Takes off running, drops him, and now he cannot walk. He was a perfectly good young man until the day that his father died and he was dropped. And now whatever happened to him He can't walk. He's lame in his feet. So skip over to chapter 9 of 2 Samuel. Now, I will apologize. I will read a good bit of this. Chapter 9 of 2 Samuel. There's a good bit of reading to go with this. And we're headed somewhere, so just hang with me, okay? 2 Samuel chapter 9, verse 1. Now, David is the king at this point. And in verse 1 of chapter 9 of 2 Samuel, he says, Then David said, Is there yet anyone left of the house of Saul, that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake? Now remember, y'all remember the story of Jonathan and David? They were best friends. And they made a vow to each other that they would look after each other's lineage. That they were friends for life, and that their sons would be taken care of as long as they were alive because of their friendship. So this is what he says. Is there anyone left of the house of Saul that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake? Verse 2. Now there was a servant in the house of Saul whose name was Ziba, and they called him to David, and the king said to him, Are you Ziba? And he said, I am your servant. And the king said, Is there not yet any one of the house of Saul to whom I may show the kindness of God? And Ziba said to the king, There is still a son of Jonathan who is crippled in both feet. So the king said to him, Where is he? And Ziba said to the king, Behold, he is in the house of Machir, the son of Amiel in Lodebar. Then King David sent and brought him from the house of Machir, the son of Amiel, from Lodebar. And Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, came to David, fell on his face, and prostrated himself. David said, Mephibosheth. And he said, Here is your servant. Verse 7. David said to him, Do not fear, for I will surely show kindness to you for the sake of your father Jonathan. And I will restore to you, now get this, I will restore to you all of the lands of your grandfather Saul. And you shall eat at my table regularly. Again he prostrated himself, and he said, What is your servant that you should regard a dead dog like me? Verse 9. Then the king called Saul's servant Ziba, and said to him, All that belonged to Saul and to all of his house I have given to your master's grandson. You and your sons and your servants shall cultivate the land for him. You shall bring in the produce so that your master's grandson may have food. Nevertheless, Mephibosheth, your master's grandson, shall eat at my table regularly. Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. I need you to pay attention here. How many sons did he have? 15. How many servants? Okay. Now Ziba had 15 sons, 20 servants, and Ziba said to the king, According to all that my lord the king commands his servant, so your servant will do. So Mephibosheth ate at David's table as one of the king's sons. Mephibosheth had a young son whose name was Micah, and all who lived in the house of Ziba were servants to Mephibosheth. So Mephibosheth lived in Jerusalem, for he ate at the king's table regularly, and he was lame in both feet. Now, here's the story again. Saul the king dies. His son dies named Jonathan all the same day. Jonathan had a son named Mephibosheth. Servant takes off running with him, basically for fear of his life. She drops him. He's now lame the rest of his life in both feet. A little time passes, and David remembers his covenant with Jonathan, and he calls the servant of King Saul and says, Is there not one of the house of Saul left that I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake? And the servant Ziba, who was the servant of Saul when Saul was alive, says there's one left. His name is is Mephibosheth. So he calls Mephibosheth. Now, can you imagine if you're Mephibosheth, you've already lost everything in life. Your dad's dead. Your grandfather's dead. The whole kingdom that was y'all's has been ripped away. Everything you know has been taken away from you. You're lame in both feet. Your name has shame in it. Destroyer of shame. And then the king, that is now the king, who your grandfather tried to kill, how many times, has now called for you to come to the court. It's not a good day. It's not a good day. You're one of the heirs that's left. It's not a good day to you. And he comes in and prostrates himself before the king, and the king says, Do not be afraid. Because imagine, you've lost everything in life. Everything that you had that was of any value has been ripped away from you. You can't even walk. why he said, I'm basically a dog. And he says, don't be afraid, I'm going to restore to you everything that was your grandfather's is now restored back to you, of all the lands. And not only that, but your grandfather's servant is going to watch over those lands, and his sons. Now remember, how many sons did he have? 15. How many servants did he have? It's a big house. You got 35 workers. That's a big... You take care of some stuff. Ziba is all of a sudden put under the authority of a man who's lame. He can't even take care of himself. He's forced to work for a man that can't even walk. He doesn't have a say in the story. The king says, you're going to take care of all of his stuff. You and all of your sons are going to take care of all of his stuff for him. You're going to bring him out in the fields, out of the fields, for him. And Ziba says, basically, as you wish, king. So me and my 15 sons and my 20 servants are now going to do what you told us to do and not what we want to do. Is this the story of what we've read so far? All right.
Well, whose servant was Ziba?
Saul. King Saul. When Saul was still alive, Ziba was his servant. He was faithful to Saul.
So after Saul was killed,
we don't know what he was doing.
he was on his own.
It's not recorded, so yeah. You got some form of freedom there, and all of a sudden you're brought back into submission to servitude. Okay, so just remember these attitudes here. Okay, chapter 16, 2 Samuel. Let's follow the story. Chapter 16, 2 Samuel, verse 1. Now this is when David is fleeing from Jerusalem. Absalom is after him. He's trying to kill his daddy. David is fleeing. And we pick it up in verse 1. Now when David had passed a little beyond the summit, behold, Ziba. Y'all remember who Ziba is?
Yeah.
The servant of Mephibosheth. See, we read a few minutes ago he was the servant of Saul. Now, whose servant is he? Mephibosheth. Because remember, the king told him he was going to be. The servant of Mephibosheth met him, talking about David, with a couple of saddle donkeys. On them were 200 loaves of bread, 100 clusters of raisins, 100 summer fruits, and a jug of wine. The king said to Ziba, why do you have these? And Ziba said, the donkeys are for the king's household to ride. The bread and the summer fruit are for the young men to eat. The wine for whoever is faint in the wilderness to drink. Then the king said, where is your master's son? Who's he talking about? Mephibosheth. And he says, and Ziba said to the king, behold, he is staying in Jerusalem. For he said, now get this, Ziba is telling King David, this is what Mephibosheth says, today the house of Israel will restore the kingdom of my father to me. What does that mean? Today I'm going to be king. Ziba, the servant, says to King David, when he asked, where is Mephibosheth? He says, Mephibosheth said he's going to stay behind. So today, the kingdom will be restored to him. Are y'all with me? Verse 4. So the king said to Ziba, behold, all that belongs to Mephibosheth is yours. And Ziba said, I prostrate myself. Let me find favor in your sight, O Lord. Now, this is the story. Yeah.
Why? How can you do that? Just because you stay behind?
No.
Ziba the servant says, Mephibosheth, okay, you got a bunch of big names here. Ziba the servant of King Saul, who's now put in charge of taking care of Mephibosheth's stuff, tells King David, Mephibosheth stayed behind, hoping to become king today. Because David was fleeing for his life. David was king and he fled for his life. And he says he stayed behind, hoping that today the kingdom would be restored to him. He's a good servant, huh?
Well, he provided him all these donkeys and everything.
Oh yeah, he knows what he's doing.
Help him out of town.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
You go on out of town.
Let me help you.
Yeah, let me help you. Which one's the bad guy, though? Is it Mephibosheth or is it Ziba? Because one of them's up to no good.
Well, is Ziba speaking the truth?
Let's find out.
Ziba, boy or girl?
The man. Chapter 19. Absalom is now dead. King David is coming back to chapter 19. King David is coming back to Jerusalem. Absalom's dead. The revolt's been put down. He's coming back. Chapter 19, verse 24. Then Mephibosheth, the son of Saul, they don't even have him listed as the son of Jonathan. He's now the son of Saul. But although, let me stop right there and say, if you read over a few chapters, you'll find where David gives up 7 of the sons of the heritage of Saul to be hung because of what they had done, I think, to the Gibeonites. You'll find one of them named Mephibosheth, the son of Saul. That's a different Mephibosheth. Okay? Mephibosheth is also a son of Saul, the king, but he dies later in a different story. Just so there's no confusion, there's 2 different guys in this part of the Bible named Mephibosheth. Okay? But this is the one.
He's named after his uncle, basically.
Right.
One's the son and one's the grandson.
Right. But this one's named after his uncle, basically. Or however it works. Verse 24, Mephibosheth, the son of Saul, came down to meet the king. He had neither cared for his feet, nor trimmed his mustache, nor washed his clothes from the day the king departed until the day he came home in peace. All right, stop right there. Don't get ahead of ourselves. What did he look like? Basically, he hasn't bathed. He hasn't done anything. He's unkept. He hasn't changed his clothes. He hasn't trimmed his beard. He hasn't cut his toenails. He has not kept himself. For what purpose?
Out of respect to David.
Isn't that a worry? Concern? What's he concerned about?
It's kind of a mourning kind of thing, isn't it? That his king has left.
His king's gone. Does this sound like a guy that's trying to become king?
Not at all.
Does this sound like a guy that's trying to revolt and take over the throne again for the sake of his grandfather and his father? He's lame in his feet. How many kings in history survive that are lame in their feet? It's not long. Somebody's going to come in and take them out and try to take over. You've got to be able to defend yourself as the king. And he says, King David, I have neither trimmed my feet, nor my mustache, or changed my clothes. I haven't kept myself since you've been gone. He says, verse 25, it was when he came from Jerusalem to meet the king that the king said to him, why did you not go with me, Mephibosheth? Verse 26, so he answered, O my lord the king, my servant deceived me. Now, what servant's he talking about? Ziba. He said, Ziba deceived me. For he said, I will saddle a donkey for myself that I may ride on it and go with the king, because your servant is lame. Moreover, he slandered your servant to my lord the king. But my lord the king is like the angel of God. Therefore, do what is good in your sight. Now, stop right there. Now, what's happening right here? Let's remember, who is Mephibosheth? He's royalty, or he was. His father, his grandfather are both killed on the same day. He's dropped on that same day. He can no longer walk. He can't do anything. He can't take care of himself. He's at the mercy of somebody. Everything he knew was ripped away from him. The king called him into the court. Everything was restored to him as far as his lands. And servants to take care of his lands. The king flees for his life. The servant betrays him. And everything he knew was ripped away from him again. Who wants that kind of a life? We think we've got it bad. How would you like to be Mephibosheth? Everything you've known has been ripped away from you how many times? And the king comes back and looks at you and says, why didn't you come? And he looks at him and says, my servant deceived me. And then he slandered me. And he doesn't say it here, but remember what happened when Ziba came to David and said, here's all these donkeys and all this stuff. Well, where's Mephibosheth? He says he's hoping to be restored as king. Okay, fine. All of his lands are now yours. So all of his stuff has now been ripped away. He has nothing. He has nothing to live for. Everything's been ripped away again. And it's given to his servant. And hear what he has to say. This is so powerful. It really is. It's so powerful. He says, verse 27, moreover, he slandered your servant to my lord the king, but my lord the king is like an angel of God. Therefore, do what is good in your sight. He says to David, do what you seem is necessary. Whatever is good for you, I'm good with. He says, verse 28, for all of my father's household was nothing but dead men before my lord the king. Yet you set your servant among those who ate at your own table. In other words, I had nothing before you came into my life, and then you set me at your own table. I've eaten at your table. You told me so many times as one of your own sons. And he says, yet you set your servant among those who ate at your own table. What right do I have yet that I should complain anymore to the king? What do I have to say to the king? Why should I even complain? You have fed me my whole life. I sat at your table as one of your sons. You restored all of my lands. Yeah, you've taken it away. But you do what's right in your eyes. Who am I to complain to you? Y'all hear his humility coming out of him? Here's what the king says, verse 29. So the king says to him, why do you still speak of your affairs? In other words, just be quiet. I've already decided. You and Ziba shall divide the land. Woohoo! Man, we got half of it back anyway. How cool is that? It was all ripped away. Now I got at least half of it back. That's not too bad, is it? So which one's telling the truth? Is it? David basically says, I don't know. But either way, you get half and he gets half. Hear what Mephibosheth says. This is so powerful. Mephibosheth says in verse 30, to the king, let him, talking about Ziba, even take it all, since my lord the king has come safely to his own house. Mephibosheth says, king, I don't want it. Give it to Ziba. Now you're talking about a lot of land, a lot of money, a lot of prestige, a lot of stuff. Give it to him. And if you'll read later, you'll find out that he had sons. So basically, he's given up all of the heritage that would go to his sons to the servant, Ziba. And Mephibosheth says, king, I am just happy that you're back and restored. That's good enough for me. Did you hear his response? Verse 30 says again, Mephibosheth said to the king, let him even take it all, since my lord the king has come safely to his own house. He says, just the fact that you're back and you're back as king is enough. I don't want the money, I don't want the lands, I don't want all that goes with that. Enough for me is you're still the king. Isn't that pretty powerful? Now how many of us, if we're faced with that same dilemma, because we are every day, and here's what we're faced with. Is Jesus being king enough for you? Or are we after the prestige, the land, the money, all that goes with all that? When Mephibosheth says, King David, they can have it all, I don't want it. It's enough for me that you are the king. My question to us tonight is it enough that Jesus is king? Is that enough? Is it enough? How many of us would respond this way even to Jesus? If Jesus were to come to you tonight and say, I'm going to restore it, I'm going to give you this and I'm going to give you that, how many of us would look at Him and say, give it to them? I am good just knowing you are who you say you are. Does that make sense? Because He could have had it back. And He might even could have defended Himself and got all of His stuff back. But the heart of Mephibosheth says, I'm not after that. It's enough for me to know you're the king. Now remember, his name, destroyer of shame. See, that which was cursed was turned into a blessing. He didn't even realize the power of what he was saying. It's enough for me. It's enough for me. It's enough for me to know that God is who He says He is. Is that enough? Is it really? For you and me, is that enough tonight, today? What are we after in life? What are we trying to accomplish? What are we really pursuing? What am I pursuing? And in my situation, as a preacher, is it enough for me that Jesus is King, or am I seeking ministry? Am I seeking this? Am I seeking that? Am I seeking name? Am I seeking the miracles? Am I seeking the salvations? What am I seeking? And what is enough for me? For others in life that work so this kind of job or that kind of job, what kind of promotion are we after? At what point is it enough? When do we say it's enough? When do we say we're happy? If we can't be happy with just Jesus, we'll never be happy with anything. If we can't get to the place where it's enough that He is who He says He is, then how will we ever be happy? Because the things of this earth, they come and they go. Everybody in this room can tell stories about, we wanted that new vehicle. Man, if I could just get that vehicle, man, I'd be so happy. We get it, and what happens within 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, what starts happening? We start looking for that other that will make us happy. And there's a lot of marriages built off that right there. If I could just get her, if I could just get that guy, I'd be so happy. And they finally get married, and what happens in time? They start letting their eyes start straight away from their covenant, and we find ourselves leaving this to go to this. What is enough? How much money is enough? How much land is enough? You understand what I'm asking? What are we after? In my case, how big of a ministry is enough? How many countries is enough? How many souls is enough? How many salvations? How many deliverance? How many healings is enough? How many stories is enough? If in my heart of hearts I'm not satisfied that just Jesus being King is enough, then none of those other stories will ever be enough. In his case, working at the paper mill, if Jesus is not enough, if that's not the premise of his whole life, Jesus is enough for me, but I work at the paper mill. But if inside of his heart it's not enough, but he pursues being plant manager, arriving at plant manager won't make him happy. Because now we want to be in upper management of the whole corporation. Now we're always pursuing that next level. We're always after that next thing, that bigger house, that bigger job, that promotion. You know, I hadn't had a promotion in years. I hadn't had a raise in years. But because we're an American and that's what American companies do, that's what we think we're entitled to. But my question to you is, what is enough? Are we pursuing monetary things? Are we pursuing pleasures of life? Or is Jesus enough for you and me? Does that make sense? When it gets down to it, At the end of it all, what's enough? Going to bed tonight with our air conditioning and our nice little beds and our nice little comfortable things, if all that was ripped away from us in a moment, would Jesus still be enough? The whole premise of our salvation, is it enough? Or do we have to have all these other comforts to make us feel like we're worthy and we're okay and we're doing something? Because when we stand before God and give account, if Jesus wasn't enough, we're in trouble. If Jesus wasn't enough, we're in trouble. Because my life is not built upon bank accounts, vehicles, houses, cars. My life is built only upon Jesus. There's nothing wrong with having the house and the cars and the lands and all that stuff. But that's not what my life is built upon. If Jesus is not enough, we're in trouble. Does that make sense? I read this the other day and I wrote it down. This man, he was attacking Christians and he said, "Ha! Christians are a dying breed of humans. It is time for logic and reason to take its new place in our world and throw out the old beliefs of our ancestors and their lives." We'll read that again. He said, "Ha! Christians are a dying breed of humans. It is time for logic and reason to take its new place in our world. Throw out the old beliefs of our ancestors and their lives." That's what's being taught today. Logic and reasoning is our God. Christians are a dying breed of people. That's you and me. It's now human logic, human reasoning. That's the way to go. It's now about what I think is okay and what you think about is okay and what society says is okay. Well, you and I both would totally disagree with that whole statement right there. But there is a breed of young people out there that's buying into this. And I am concerned that we that call ourselves Christians have not become satisfied with Christ. That it's not enough. Is Jesus enough? Because out of one side of our mouth we say He is, and the other side of our mouth we're pursuing all the pleasures of man that we can obtain for ourselves, that we can amass for ourselves. My question, where are the Mephibosheths that will say to God, "You're enough. You're enough. You're enough for me. You're enough. You're enough. You being on the throne is enough for me. It doesn't matter what they do, what they possess, and what they go and do. Jesus, you're enough." Because I have found that one of the greatest traitors on earth are those who are false witnesses for Jesus. I'll say that again. One of the greatest traitors on earth are the false witnesses for Jesus. Those hypocrites. Those who claim to be Christians, but yet have a false witness of who Christ is. It does more to deter people. It does more to defame the name of Jesus. It does more harm to the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ than good. People that claim to be followers of Christ, but yet want to act like the world. What does it do for those who are really trying to follow Christ? It brings shame to the name of Jesus. Inconsistent witnessing has lowered the standard of practical Christianity. Inconsistent witnessing. People that want to get on all But yet, by Friday night, they've got their, and they're doing just like those in the bar. Or they're here, or they're there, but yet out of one side of our mouth we want to claim something, and there's nothing. I'm not judging people. I'm saying either let's follow Jesus or let's don't follow Jesus. Let's don't claim to be something we're not going to be all the time. How many people, even in this room, have been around somebody that went to church time and time again, but yet when a situation came, the pressure came, they acted like everybody else at the plant instead of the Christians? How many times have we been around people that want to talk about the Bible and quote scriptures, but yet when the rubber meets the road, so to speak, happens, we throw all that out the window and we just blow up like everybody else? What does that do for people that are watching? It makes people that are watching look at us and go, why do I need your God? Why do I need your church? Why should I go to your revival when you act just like me? Where are the people that are so hungry for God that would say to the things of this earth, you can have it. I want Jesus and nothing else. In my heart, I am pursuing God with everything I have. That's why we're told to love the Lord our God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. We've got to love Him till we're consumed by Him. We've got to be changed from the inside out. But yet, how many people have a bad reputation when even other Christians don't want to be around us? Because we don't know who we're really talking to. You ever been around anybody like that? That they were so fickle that you never knew who you was getting? That every time you got around you was, which one am I getting today? Is this the nice one, or is this the mean one, or is this, which one is this? So you test the waters to see what you get, and you find out real quick you're not ready yet, so you go back, and you come back, and you test the waters again to see which one you get. Anybody know who? Anybody like that? Me? We're talking about me. Don't say anybody know anybody like that? That you never know how to approach them because you don't know who you're getting? As all the eyes dart around the room. Fingers. I'm scratching my head. What is our pursuit in life? If according to 1 John 1:1, we testify of the things we've seen and heard, we read this verse a few weeks back. We testify of the things we've seen, that which we've heard, that which we testify of what we know and what we've experienced. We testify of. Then what are we testifying about? Because there's witnesses all over this earth, and I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about creation. The Bible says creation declares the glory of God. That even if you and I won't declare the glory of God, that wind that's blowing out there, those trees that are doing this, that most of us don't even pay attention to, unless a limb falls out, then we murmur and complain about that limb that fell out, almost hit my Jeep. That tree that fell and almost took out something, or did take out, all we want to do is complain about it. You know what he did his whole life? When he was standing there, you know what he was doing? Dropping leaves for you to have to pick up. I have to blow that daggum concrete again. And we murmur and complain, and he's up there just worshiping God. He's declaring the glory of God. The psalmist said the trees of the fields clap their hands. I don't know how all that works. I'm just telling you, creation declares the glory of God. Even that horse that's out there in that field declares the glory of God. The colors of the trees right now. The green is declaring the glory of God. The produce that we've been eating was declaring the glory of God. It's out there. It's declaring it. They're witnessing. What are they witnessing to? The fact that He is enough. What they're witnessing to. He is enough. You know why it's still green? Because He's still on the throne. You know why this earth is still held together? Because God's still on the throne. You know why all this doesn't just go? Because He's still King of Kings, and He's still Lord of Lords. And yeah, He's still on the throne. Check it pretty early this morning. Before a lot of us got up this morning, I was checking. He was still on the throne. And He's still King of Kings, and He's still Lord of Lords. And you know what else? He's still enough. You know why the disciples gave it all? You know why they freely laid down their lives? Because He was enough. They weren't after the pleasures of man. They weren't after the prestige of man. The Apostle Paul didn't travel from country to country so that he could write a newsletter, so that 2,000 years later we'd look at it and go, man, what a man of God he was. I was reading about him this week, about how they came and were trying to sacrifice to him one moment, and he's telling them, don't. And the next moment they're trying to kill him. You know, all those stories that he got shipwrecked and beaten and left for dead, drug out of the city, left for dead. They gathered around him, and basically raised him from the dead, and walks back into the city that they just stoned him in. All those stories. What does that you say? It's tough being the guy with all the stories.
With all the good stories.
It's tough being the guy with all the good stories. Something happened on a trip or something, he'll just look at me and say, it's tough being the guy with all the good stories. Because all those stories that we look at and go, wow, that's good stuff. You know, he really lived that. But you know, to the Apostle Paul, or to Peter, or to John, the Revelator who's on the Isle of Patmos, whose skin is dripping off of him because they boiled him in hot oil. Jesus was enough. He was enough. They didn't do all that for a story. They didn't do it so you and I would look at them and go, now God. They did it for the glory of God because He was enough. But my question is He enough to us? Does that make sense what I'm asking tonight? Are we like Mephibosheth? Or are we like Ziba? Ziba deceived. He tricked. He played the game. And he got all the toys. But in the end, he still loses. But Mephibosheth gave it all up. He said, King, it's enough for me to know that you're back and you're on the throne. Is it enough for us tonight to know, Jesus, it's enough for me to know you really are the King? It's enough. See, only in our heart can we answer that question. But out here, we can give a whole appearance of something that's not really happening here. It has to happen in here because it's going to come out on that day. Every man, every woman is going to stand before God and give account. And the realness of the heart will be exposed. And if Jesus wasn't enough, He will turn to us and say, depart from me, ye worker of iniquity. It's got to become enough for us. For we are willing to give our lives, give our everything, where it's not about money. Yeah, we work, we get money, but we give it for the sake of Him. Because it's not about what I leave. Proverbs says, a good name is more desirable than great riches. And a wise man does leave an inheritance to his children's children. But a good name is more important than what he left to his children's children, because without your name, what do you have? Is the name of Jesus enough for you and me? That's my question tonight. With all of this story and all that we talked about here, that's the question. Is it enough? Is Jesus enough? Or are we seeking pleasures out of life, proving it's not enough? You understand what I'm trying to ask? It just bound up in my heart. Y'all be blessed tonight. It's me and Darwin. Standing in my home with Jesus is King. The devil is still a liar. Y'all be blessed.